Okay, so today we're going to be talking about percent composition and also reviewing molar mass. Okay, so just some reminders about molar mass. When we pull the atomic masses for elements from the periodic table, we want to make sure we're taking 4 significant figures from that periodic table. The unit for molar mass is grams per mole, or you can say grams in 1 mole. To solve for molar mass, remember we said we had like the 5-step process. We write our ions, then we write the formulas. From the formulas, we can tell how many of each ion we have, right? So if it was something like H2O, we have 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. We then plug in the atomic masses for each element. So hydrogen was 1.008. We multiply that by 2 since we had 2 hydrogens. And then we add 16.00, which was the mass of oxygen. You plug that all in, we pay attention to significant digits. Because we are adding, when we plug it all into the calculator, we're going to want our final answer to have the least number of decimal places. So in that water example, hydrogen had 3 decimals, oxygen had 2, and so our final answer could only have 2 decimal places. Now what I would like you to do is for these 2 examples at the bottom of the page, magnesium cyanide and sulfuric acid, go ahead and spend some time solving for the molar mass of those 2 compounds. Once you've completed it, you should get for magnesium cyanide 76.35 grams per mole. And for the sulfuric acid, you should get 98.09 grams per mole. Okay, so take some time, solve for those, and when you're done, you can compare it to those answers. Percent composition. So when you talk about a percent ever in life, you are looking at a part over whole. The part you got right on a test over the total number of points. The amount of Gatorade in your water solution, right? Percents are your part over whole. So when we're talking about composition, we're talking about how something is made up. So percent composition is the percentages of a compound that are made up by certain elements. So your part is always going to be what the question is asking for, okay? Whatever it's asking for. What's the percent hydrogen? What's the percent oxygen? Your question will specify your part, okay? So that's going to be in the question. Your whole, okay, is going to be the compound, okay? And it's actually going to be the total molar mass of that compound. And your part ends up being the mass of just the element in question. Now, it's important to note, if there are 2 hydrogens, right, in water, and we're being asked to solve for the amount of hydrogen, then we do have 2 hydrogens as our part, okay? It's however many of that element that you have. So let's look at an example of how this would work. Okay, so again, part over whole. Your part is whatever the question specifies and asks for. Your whole is going to be the molar mass of that compound. Okay, so for this question, we are asked, what is the percent composition of copper in copper 1 sulfate? So I need to come up with my formula. So copper 1, we've got Cu with a +1 charge, and sulfate, SO4 -2. So we've got Cu2SO4. Second, come up with the molar mass of our compound. So I've got 2 coppers, and I have 1 sulfur, and I have 4 oxygens. So then I go to the periodic table and I plug in the masses for those elements. So copper is 63.55. Again, remembering we always take 4 significant figures for those atomic masses. Okay, then I check my decimals. I've got 2 decimals here, 2 decimals here, and 2 here. So my final answer is going to have those 2 significant figures. I'm sorry, 2 decimals. So I plug this into my calculator, and I'm going to get 223.17 grams per mole. Okay, and so our part is copper, okay, because that's what it's asking for in the question. So we put that on top. I look and I have got 2 coppers, okay, and so I've got 2 Cus over our Cu2SO4 times 100, right? That's always the last thing you do in a percentage. So I'm going to take my 2 times 63.55. I plug that in, and I'm going to get 127.1. Because I'm multiplying here, I'm looking at 63.55, which has 4 significant figures, and so my answer needs to have 4 sig figs there. My denominator is the molar mass we just solved for up here. So I plug in the 223.17, multiply that by 100, plug that into our calculator, and we're going to get 59.95%. And it's always a good idea to list the element at the end that the question asks for. So that in our copper 1 sulfate, 59.95% of it is made up of copper. Okay? Let's look at another example. So in this question here, I've actually given you the formula. This is lead 4 nitride. So we can skip that first part of writing the formula. In the future questions, you're definitely going to have to write the formulas yourself. So here I've got 3 leads. Let's see, let's get rid of that. Okay. Three leads, and I've got 4 nitrogens. So I plug in the atomic masses again, remembering that we are only taking those 4 significant figures from the periodic table. So 3 times 207.2 plus 4 times 14.01. We plug this into the calculator, and we're going to get our molar mass to be 223.17 grams per mole. But because that 0.17, sorry, that number is incorrect. Let's see here. That was the one before. We re-plug that in. There we go. 667.6. Okay, we're only going to have 1 decimal place here because we only had the 1 decimal here. And so our final answer can only have 1. Then the question is asking for lead. So our lead is our part. We have 3 leads, so it's 3 Pb over our Pb3 and 4. So we plug in 3 times 207.2, and we're going to get 621.6. Divide that by our 667.6, multiply it by 100, and we're going to get 91.73%. Remember that when you're doing multiplication and division, you're looking at sig figs. So I've got 4 sig figs and 4 sig figs, so my final answer has 4. That's different than above when we were adding. We were looking at decimals up here. Down here, we're going to be looking at sig figs. Okay, so now what I want you to do is just take some time and do these on your own. Your correct answer for hydrogen and phosphoric acid is going to be 97.99% hydrogen. And your correct answer for the percent cadmium in cadmium phosphate should be 63.97% cadmium. So make sure you get those right, okay? Once you've completed going through this presentation, there is a worksheet available to you on Whipple Hill. That homework will be collected on Monday, so please make sure you download it and complete it. You can complete it right there in your OneNote notebook. See you guys next week.